The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
Hi there. Welcome to another live broadcast of Pateo Television, brought to you via CCN, Conscious Consumer Network.tv. My name is Johan Oldenkamp and I'm the host of this spectacular television program. What I'm doing now, what I'm always doing, I'm going to share my screen so that I can give my presentation. And I hope everything is working well and you can see what I'm seeing. This is the 13th live presentation show of Pateo TV, Pateo Television. And the title of this show is Holy Science Applications. I'm going to talk about a number of applications of Holy Science. That means I have applied Holy Science in order to show the truth on certain subjects. The date of this episode in the time zone that I am in is September the 3rd, 2015. And the time at my place is a little bit after 8 o'clock in the evening, 8 p.m. And that is exactly the time this program is broadcast every Thursday from 8 till 10 p.m. Central European Time. So if you are in a different time zone, then maybe look at the clock now, because this is the time slot of Pateo Television. And the website of CCN, you can see it here at the bottom of the screen, Conscious Consumer Network.tv. And this website you can find live broadcast nearly around the clock, nearly 24/7. And I think it's very interesting to check out that website if you didn't know it yet. My name is Johan Oldenkamp and this is my email address, johan@pateo.nl. Any questions you have about this show, you can always send me a message. And I have two websites, pateo.nl and holyscience.org, and I will show them now. This is pateo.nl. It is a multi-language website. In total, there are 10 different languages here. Most information is in English and also in Dutch, my mother tongue, but also a lot of information in Spanish, French, and German, and Italian. And the other languages are a little bit less. Turkish is also quite a bit, but Russian, Chinese, or Mandarin, and Arabic is very limited. If you speak these languages and you want to help me in one way or the other, then please contact me. My email address you can easily find on my website, pateo.nl. And everything related to Pateo Television, you find here under this button in the menu left, Pateo TV. And if you click there you find all the episodes of Pateo Television. And this is my all English website, holyscience.org. And all the TV episodes are here, of course, but also a lot of articles. All my books in English you can find here, in at least information on, or sometimes you can also read them online for free. And yeah, that is very special here, you can easily find. So just type in any subject you're interested in, click on this, and then you will get all the articles that are related to that subject. I think it's a really good portal for finding information on Holy Science. The first 7 episodes of Pateo Television, they are together a kind of unity of 7. And these are the main figures I made for them, the main images, as a kind of abbreviation of what the program is about. And they're all available on YouTube. These are the main figures you find on YouTube if you type in the episodes. If you don't like the quality, if you think the quality is too low, then please know there is an HD quality video available for each of these episodes. And for that, you go to ethymarket.com. And now we are doing the second episode of Pateo Television, and that is an episode, second series, sorry, and that's a series of 6 episodes in total. So that makes the total number of Pateo Television episodes 13, and we're now doing number 13. Here you see the front cover of it. Yeah, and especially number 8, that was a really important episode that has also been broadcast in Spanish, in German, in French, in Italian, and of course in English and in Dutch, and even also in Arabic. So if you speak those languages, or you know people who speak those languages and they're interested in the true human history, then please advise them to go to pateo.nl, where they can easily find that episode. So they're all available, except of course the one we're doing now, number 13. But the previous 5 of the second series are all available on YouTube, and this is how they look like, their front covers. So now we are starting with episode number 13, and I'm going to talk about these colors here, of course, but I'm not going to talk about these figures you find here. But if you, by any chance, know what they mean, and I just need a short answer, if you have the right answer, then you get the Holy Science textbook for free. The normal price is 41 USA dollars or 30 euros. But if you guess right what this means together with this, then you get that book, that ebook of 520 pages for free. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about 6 different subjects. The first subject, and I think it is an important subject because I've announced it a couple of times, is about the so-called flat earth theory, because it is flat out silliness. And I'm going to prove it for once and for all that it is completely ridiculous, that idiotic claim. And anybody who is still, after the show, harassing me with this nonsense, they get a very rude answer from me, because I'm really fed up with it. But later on, I will prove it that it's completely, nonsense. Then we're going to talk about pure tones and pure colors, because the underlying logic is the same for tones and for colors. It's the very same. Perhaps the biggest subject is about electricity and magnetism. We've already talked in the previous episode, episode 12, about this a little bit, but I think it's really important that we know more about this. I'm not going to reveal everything that I know about this, because I also I'm working on a lot of issues as well, and I'm also not going to give it away for free, what I'm doing now. So I'm thinking of a way to share my insights, but not in this way, because it's not really helping me to make a living, so to say. Then I'm going to talk about a very ancient book, but is it really that ancient? It's called the Ura Linda book, and it's really popular in New Age circles. I'm going to talk about this because there's the 2 sides to the story, and I think it's a really interesting story. And part of that story is actually a kind of a side way, but it's a story in itself. It's about the pure solar lunar calendar, and that calendar was present in the UK, as we call it now, and also in the middle of Europe, before the Roman calendar we have nowadays, the Gregorian calendar, was forced upon the people who live there. So our ancestors knew about the pure dynamics of the solar and the lunar cycles. And that's what I'm going to prove in this episode as well. And then at the end, I will talk about a part of the work of Friedrich Nietzsche, a really great philosopher, a really smart man. And it's all about how to develop your spirit. I've talked about in previous episodes that most people have no clue what the spirit really means, and neither the soul. And Nietzsche gives us a really helpful method to improve your spirit, or to make it grow. And that's what I'm going to talk about at the last part of this episode. So this is the agenda. If you watch this on YouTube and you're not interested in all 6, but only in 1 or maybe 2, then just go forward and find the right episodes, because this is the order in which I'm going to talk about them. And I cannot say at front how long each subject will take. So maybe 15 to 20 minutes each. What I'm saying, no, maybe more because the total is 2 hours. Okay. So we talk first about the flat Earth silliness, and many people are following this idiotic claim, and maybe the most prominent guy who's doing that, his name is Eric Dubai, and you can find his website easily on internet. And he made a kind of small book, PDF, where he says that he has 200 proofs that the Earth is not a spinning ball. Well, I've been to, I think, almost all 200 of them because it's completely boring and mostly he's flat out wrong. But I'm going to give, I'm not going to talk about each of those 200 silly claims. I'm talking about just a few of them, and they are more than enough to falsify this nonsense. And of course, we all know that NASA means not a straight answer. NASA is absolutely lying to us, no doubt about it. And I will show later on why NASA is lying. But the fact that NASA is lying does not mean that that you can conclude that this planet is a flat plane instead of a sphere. That is nonsense. That is completely not logical reasoning. Yeah. So this jumping from this to this is completely wrong. NASA is lying, but that does not mean that this planet is a flat plane. One of the so-called proofs of this Eric Dubai guy is the logo of the United Nations. And of course, we all know too that this United Nations has nothing to do with real democracy, because it's actually a kind of organization founded by the New World Order people. So this is no doubt about this, that this has everything to do with the New World Order and the way they want to dominate this planet. But the fact that they show this planet from the North Pole and then pulled out a little bit does not mean that this is a correct representation of this planet. That is completely illogical reasoning. I don't understand how anybody could have thought of this. They just want to show different things here. And one of the things they want to show here is, of course, the number 33, because there are exactly 33, how should I call them? Shapes within this pattern. Yeah, there are 5 rings and one in the middle that makes a total of 33. And of course, that's an important number. We find also in the Scottish Rite Freemasonry. And I've talked about this before, how important the number 33 really is. So it's a hidden meaning, the 33, and also it's a kind of structure they put on this planet so that it's a kind of imprisonment of this planet. That's something you can see in this logo, but not that this planet is a flat plane. And of course, when we count the symbolism in the branches of the olive tree, we find the number 13. And that's also very, very meaningful. Yeah, the 13 families at the top of the New World Order power pyramids that want to rule this planet. So it's about 13 and 33. And I can talk much more about this, but that is really hidden here. Yeah, the 13 and the 33, and not that this planet is flat. This is what the flat Earth lunatics are telling as a representation of our home planet. They think this is really a kind of flat plane, circular, and that we are living on top of that. The point is, they have never answered the question, what is then under it? So that's also really, really remarkable. But anyway, this is how they represent this world we live on. And with just very simple logic, I'm going to prove this completely wrong. First of all, we all know what happened before the USA was pulled into the Second World War, because there was an attack from the Japanese military air force to the islands of Hawaii, to the harbor of Pearl Harbor, sorry. And here we find Japan, and there's Hawaii. So if these flat Earth is a really correct representation of our reality, of the planet we live on, then it would not make much sense to fly from Japan all the way to Hawaii to attack the USA, because it's much more easy to fly straight to Alaska, where there are 9 USA military bases. So it would have been much cheaper for them to attack one of these bases here instead of flying nearly twice as far on this map, not really, of course, on this map, to fly all the way to Hawaii. Yeah, here you see the arrow to Hawaii, and this is the arrow from Alaska if you put them on here. So that makes really sense. Maybe the Japanese didn't know we lived on a flat Earth, and that's why they flew too far. But I hope you can understand this kind of reasoning is ridiculous. And what they also say is the Arctic at the South Pole is very much larger, and actually you can only be on the inside because you can never be on the outside, which is also a completely silly claim. Yeah, the Antarctic is not as big as this, because if you calculate how much square meters this would have of square miles, it's incredible. So it's completely ridiculous. Yeah, so the Japanese flew from here to here. That's what they really did. That's why they attacked Pearl Harbor instead of flying here through California. Yeah, they could have also flown to Alaska, but that's a little bit less, but that's also quite a distance. So maybe this was more easy for them to fly under the radar or something. And of course, let me also point this out. The head of the military in the USA knew everything about this, and even the president was warned about this, but they decided not to take any action because they want to get dragged into the war. The military-industrial complex wanted the war, wanted the USA to participate because that's really good for their business. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah, what I've learned in my research is that the Japanese actually were not really eager anymore to do it, but they were somehow forced to still attack Pearl Harbor. So I think the history is completely different than what we have been told. Pearl Harbor was the same thing as 9/11, but then many years earlier. An excuse to start a war. And now comes the big hit, because if the flat Earth lunatic theory is true, then flying from here, from Sydney to Santiago in Chile, so from Australia to Chile, would require an airplane that goes with a speed of almost Mach 3, because 3 times a week there is a direct flight from Sydney to Santiago, and the flight takes 12.5 hours. This distance, we can easily calculate this in the flat Earth lunatic theory. The plane would have been flying by 3,200 kilometers an hour. Yeah, that's incredible. That is much faster than the Concorde used to fly. Yeah, much faster. The people on board of this plane, they would go 2 times through the sound barrier. So it would give a huge bang to the people who are on the floor. And this flights would then go directly above the USA. So 3 times a week, the people in the USA just have to look up to see a plane that goes 4 times as fast as all the other planes in this direction. I'm more than 100% certain that nobody has ever seen such a plane, if it's a Boeing, then it's really a remarkable Boeing that can go that fast. So I think this proves beyond any doubt that this is completely impossible. People fly 3 times a week from Sydney to Santiago in 12.5 hours with a normal plane. So I hope by now you understand this whole talk about flat Earth is completely ridiculous. This is the real trajectory of the plane. It's going like this, and this is a normal time, normal flight, normal speed. And what about the Coriolis effect, if you're still not convinced? How is it possible that at the northern hemisphere, the winds, the tornadoes, and the air is going in a different direction than the southern hemisphere? and the equator is exactly the demarcation line in between. At the northern hemisphere, this direction of each tornado, of each powerful wind, or all the directions of winds actually always go counterclockwise, while on the southern hemisphere it's always going clockwise. How is that possible if this is a flat plane world? What would cause this Coriolis effect? If you are that clever and you still believe in the flat earth theory, then explain it to me. And if you can't, then book a flight from Sydney to Santiago. Yeah, and if you then still think it's true, then maybe your brains are not really working that well anymore. I'm sorry to say. And the same is true for all the dynamics in water, but only if you do a really controlled experiment. Flushing your toilet or your sink or your bathtub is not enough, because many influences can make the direction go in clockwise or counterclockwise motion. Yeah, you can easily change it. So that's not a controlled experiment. You need to do it really good. But if you do it really good, then you find it like this: the same effect, counterclockwise spin, spiral going inwards on the northern hemisphere, and a clockwise spin on the southern hemisphere. Yeah, if you look at the colors here, the way they go around, this was recorded on the northern hemisphere, this on the southern hemisphere. And if you think, yeah, I just copied these pictures from internet, or maybe I just swapped them, which you can easily do, then I advise you to watch these two videos. This guy is called Destin, and this guy, his head is upside down, but that's a joke from them, is on the southern hemisphere, and his name is Derek. And Derek and Destin made two videos, exactly the same. But this one was recorded on the northern hemisphere, and this one on the southern hemisphere. Here you can find the URLs. Yeah, just type this in on YouTube, and you'll find them easily. And there you see that it's completely true. Yeah, they made a top, and they made it really controlled. No force is pulling. They open it really carefully, and then you see with the colors in the water that this is a counterclockwise spin on the northern hemisphere and a clockwise spin on the southern hemisphere. Yeah, this is, to me, scientific proof on top of everything else I've told you. So I think this should be more than enough proof that the Earth is not a flat plane. The Earth is indeed a sphere, just like all the celestial bodies we see around us. And why would, and if you look at our planet spinning from the northern hemisphere, so it's from the North Pole side, from the top, then you see indeed a counterclockwise spin. This is the way the Earth, our home planet Terra, is spinning, seen from the top of the North Pole. And seen from the top, so to say, or the bottom from the South Pole, you see exactly the reverse, because it's the same planet reversing in the same direction. But seen from the South Pole, it's now a clockwise motion. Yeah, maybe I should take a. Sorry. I hope this goes well. Maybe I switch off this and I come back later. I hope it's clear with the light. Yeah, this is seen from the North Pole, and now you have a counterclockwise motion. This is how our Earth is spinning. Terra is spinning very slowly. And from the southern hemisphere, it's exactly the opposite direction. It's the same motion. Yeah, because this is the way it's always going around and around and around. Okay, I hope this was clear. Continue sharing my screen. Yeah, so on the northern hemisphere, seen from the top, it goes like this. On the southern hemisphere, seen from the bottom, it goes like this. But it's the same motion. And that's why we have the Coriolis effect. It's the same thing. And for instance, why would this guy, it's actually a Dutch guy, Nicolas Johannes Visser is his name, why would he make so much trouble to create a map of our home planet, a spherical map, but presented on 2 dimensions, if it would have been flat? And if it is a big conspiracy, how could this guy in 1622 already be part of that conspiracy? Doesn't make any sense. So what he really did was trying to create as accurate as possible an image of our home planet. And many others did as well. And even in ancient Greece, it was easy to calculate for those who knew, for instance, Pythagoras, how big our planet was based on the length of the shadows at the same time of the day at different longitudinal, different places on the planet. So with simple mathematics, you can calculate how big this planet, and he was off by just a little percent or something. Okay, now we go to the second subject, and we talk about the scale, the musical scale. And I've already discussed this also in episode number 3, if I'm correct. But I'm going to do it a little bit here over again in order to explain the colors more clearly. Yeah, in episode 3, I also explained that these are not just random words, they are abbreviations of Latin words. But if you're interested in that, watch episode 3. It's all about the dynamics of a transverse wave. That means a wave that is moving in a kind of medium. Yeah, for instance, air or water or whatever. And that motion is going up and then down again. And the height of this motion, or the depth, you can also say, is the amplitude. And that is actually representing how much energy is getting transported here. So the amplitude is a measure of amount of energy, while the length of this wave, the wavelength, is a measure of how fast that transportation of energy is going. So those are the 2 dimensions of a transverse wave: amount of energy and speed of propagation. And we can calculate this. We can say this is, for instance, amount of cycles per second, sometimes presented as hertz. Hertz is a cycle per second. And that's what we get the word vibration or frequency from, because that's actually what we express. Frequency is nothing else than the amount of cycles, amounts of full length of a wave in a period of time. And the same is true for vibration. And why is this all important? It has to do with resonance, because some frequencies are resonating with other frequencies while others are not. And when frequencies are not resonating, then they eventually make them all go away. While if they are resonating, then they make each other stronger. So that's the difference. They make each other stronger, or they completely wipe each other out eventually. And a transverse wave is completely different from a longitudinal wave. And actually, the word wave is also really strange here. But I will come back to that later on. There's a huge difference between these 2. Yeah, I'm talking about now only about transverse waves. And the one who discovered the dynamics of the transverse wave was Pythagoras, because he had an instrument, and he saw that when he makes each line the length half, then the tone gets doubled, the frequency gets doubled. And that's the first dynamic relation, or harmonic relation, I can say better. It's called an octave, and that's the ratio between this slower one and the faster one, because it's a ratio of 1 to 2. And that's called an octave. The ratio of 1 to 2 is an octave. The first do, the slowest do of an octave, and the second do, they have the ratio of an octave. That's why it's called an octave. Octave actually means whole of 8. So there are 8 whole tones in an octave, the first do and the second do and the other tones in between. And actually between every first and eighth tone there is a ratio of 1 to 2 if it is a pure harmonic scale. This is the second harmonic relation. It's called a quint, and that's a ratio between 2 and 3. That's what you see here. And a quint means fifth, and I will explain that later on. Actually, octave means eighth, so it's a ratio between the first and the number 8. And fifth means the relation between the first and the number 5. And then this one, the quarts, 3 ratio 4, is a relation between the first and the fourth. And that's why it's called a quart, because quart means fourth, while quint means fifth. And these three basic ratios are present in what is called the tetractys, and it's also the work of Pythagoras. Because here you see 1 and there you see 2. So this is the ratio of 1 to 2. This is 2 with 3. So this is the ratio from 2 to 3. And then the third one from 3 to 4, that's the ratio of 3 to 4. So this is the octave, this is the quint, and this is the quart. And in total, this sums up to 10. And that's exactly the same formation as we see when we go bowling. Yes, exactly the same. And when you do a good bowling, you make a strike, you kick them all, or you push them all over with one ball. One bowling ball. Here you see an image of Pythagoras. He lived on the island of Samos. So he was also named Pythagoras of Samos. Here in his hand he has the tetrahedron, a beautiful shape with 4 sides. Here you see the tetractys on top of his head. And this is the famous a square plus b square is c square. Everybody learns that at school. Yeah, for instance, 3 square plus 4 square is 5 square. And you can also see the tetractys as a way of numbering. Then you start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 all the way around. And the one in the middle, you can call it the 0. And then if you make these lines, then you get the same ordering as in the Enneagram. 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7. And that's also the number sequence in the division of dividing by 7. So it's very remarkable. And there is also a relation with the number 13. Because if you count how many triangles you can see here, then the correct answer is, of course, 13. Yeah, there is one big one. That's 1. This is a little bigger, a little less big, smaller. 2, 3, 4, plus the 9 in between. So 13. And 13 is also the tones that we find on the keyboards, which correspond to an octave, because we have the 8 whole tones. They are white on the keyboard, and in between there are 5 semitones. They are black, and 8 plus 5 is, of course, 13. So a unity of 8 is actually also a unity of 13 when we count the semitones as well. So an octave is both 8 and 13. And here we see those 13 keys from a keyboard. 5 black ones and 8 white ones. And they correspond to notes, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do, but also to the tones, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So you see that the tone A corresponds, or the note A corresponds to the tone la, and the note C to the tone do. That's how musical theory is making this relation. And you see there are big jumps, relative big jumps between the do and the re and the mi. And in between those big jumps, there's enough space for a semitone. But between the mi and the fa, it's a much smaller jump. So there is no space, no vibrational space for a semitone. Then we have 3 big jumps, so 3 seminotes in between. And again, a very small jump between the si and the do, which means there cannot be a semitone because there is not enough vibrational space. Yeah, and I'm fond of numbers. I hope you too. Otherwise, you put your fingers in your ears now, because this is a ratio of 2 to the power 3 to 3 to the power 2, which is really beautiful. Yeah, or 8 to 9. This is also 8 to 9, and then we get 3 to the power 5 to 2 to the power 8, or 243 to 256, which is about 2¼ times smaller than this big jump. So it's all powers of 2 and 3, what we find here. And also between the quints and the quarts, because the big bows on top, they are the quints, the ratio between the first and the fifth. When do is the first, do, re, mi, fa, sol, sol is the fifth. And indeed, between do and sol, there's a ratio of a relation of quints. And these are also bows between the first and the fifth. And the bows at the bottom, they are the quarts between the first and the fourth. Do is 1, re is 2, mi is 3, and fa is 4. So between the do and the fa, the first and the fourth, there is a quart relation. And that's true for the other as well. We find 4 quarts below and 4 quints above, and 4 quints plus 4 quarts makes a total of 8. Again, we find 8. An octave means the whole of 8 has also 8 harmonic relations, together with 8 tones. So it's a double whole of 8. And in the middle between both those, so when we halve the vibrational distance between the do at the beginning and the do at the end, or the both C's, then we come exactly at the G. Yeah, for instance, if we add up 265 plus 512 and we divide it by 2, then we get 384. So the G is exactly in the middle between the C and the next C. But it's not the amount of keys, because that's a little bit off. But if you calculate the mean between both those, then you get the G of the soul, of the sun. So the sun is exactly in the middle. That is the middle, what we see. And that's also true. When we look up in the sky, we can see the sun Helios, and that's showing us the middle of the creation, you can say. And that's also what I explained in the 3rd episode of Pateo TV. These are the percentages that each jump go up, 6.25 percentages, then 5.88. This is the same, and here you see a much smaller, because this is only 5.53. Well, this jump is adding up those two together. Yeah, you can say this is 1/8, this is 1/8, and this is 13th of 243. So it's much, much smaller, the same as here. And when you represent it as a kind of graph, then you see here 2, 5, 6 is the first do, and 5, 1, 2 is the second do. And it goes up little by little until it goes all the way here, and it makes a spiral movement, because this is a do and that's another do. So you can say that music or the scale is spiraling upwards to higher frequencies with a beautiful logic. Many people are completely unaware of the correct frequencies of the tones, of the natural tones. And I'm now referring to the work of Pythagoras. Yeah, a lot of people know about the tone A or La, that has to be 432 times per second, or 432 hertz, or a double of that or half of that for each La or A. But that's not the whole story. That's only a small part of this story, because all the other frequencies have to be correct as well. And then you get these numbers. If you work with music and you can measure the frequencies of each of your tones, then check it out, because this is the way to create natural frequencies. Natural tuning, that's what it's all about. So not only 432 hertz, all the other ones have to be correct as well. And they're all round numbers, by the way, except this one. This is a 1/3, but the rest is all round. Of course, when you go down and you keep halving them, at a certain moment you get fractions as well. But and this will never get a whole number, because it will always stay a fraction due to the 1/3 at the end. Sometimes it's 2/3 or 1/3, but it's always 1 or 2/3 for the fa or the F. But these are the official frequencies. These are completely, artificial numbers. They are not natural, and the difference is here. So if you are into music and you organize, for instance, festivals, and you already work with 432 Hertz, then please make also all the other tones correct. That's the best way to bring balance back into our system through music. Yeah, music, even in these frequencies, can be really touching, but if it's here, it's much, much more powerful. And of course, we all know that music with 432 Hertz, only if it's this one, then it's already much more powerful. You need less decibels to reach the same effect. And it's also more, how can I say, more spacey. It's the environment is much more involved, so to say, than with this artificial 440 Hertz. So now we go to the colors, because the colors have the same dynamics, the underlying dynamics, as the tones. Tones is audio and colors is video, so to say. This effect is also known when light is shined into a prism, then it's bended, but the bending is different for the different colors. Red is bended the most and purple is bended the least. And the same is true when it goes out again, and that's why we see these beautiful colors of the rainbow. And the same effect happens when light is shining through water. When there are water drops in the air, they all have the same shape, then we get the same bending of the light beam that goes through all those water drops and creates a huge rainbow in the sky. It's the same effect. It's the bending of light through a medium, and the surface of that medium is not perpendicular to the incoming light beam. That's the secret of the whole thing. And here we find the frequencies of the colors. Yeah, actually it's very difficult to say what is exactly the frequency of green, of blue, because it's a spectrum. Yeah, you see here from violet all the way to red. And what is exactly the right frequency for red or for yellow or for green? That's not good to tell when you look at this. But if you know the underlying dynamics, then you can easily point it out, because it's the same thing. 2 times a big jump, a small jump, 3 times a big jump, and a small jump again. The very same as with music. So then you get these frequencies, and they are exactly where they're supposed to be. And it's also a doubling from the lowest do to the highest do, because those colors we cannot see. We call this infrared and we call this ultraviolet. So this do is ultraviolet do, and this is the infrared do. But we are not able, our senses, our eyes are not able to detect those colors. Yeah, we can call them colors, but we are not able to see them. Yeah, we need special equipment to determine their frequencies. Yeah, if this is going too fast for you, or you want to know the frequencies, you can also go to holyscience.org, my all English website, and there you find an article titled Pure Colors and Pure Tones, and there you find all the correct frequencies. Yeah, you can also give them in wavelength. Frequencies or wavelength is the same. It's just a different way of presenting them. Yeah, this is the length of the wave in nanometer, which means 10 to the power -9 meters, or 10 to the power -6 millimeters. And or you can also use terahertz. Tera means 10 to the power 12 hertz. So that's 10 to the power 12 times cycles per second, which is quite a lot. So then we can also put those colors in groups together. The pure colors, as we call them, are red, yellow, and blue. And in the Enneagram, they are connected with direct lines. To me, that's remarkable. And the colors in between are orange, green, and purple. And they are also connected with a direct line. So maybe there's something more here to us as well. Yeah, I think it's a really beautiful sight to put the colors of the tones at the places of the enneagram, because then that's what you get. Yeah, and the calculation of the wavelength or the frequencies is based on the assumption of the speed of light. So if you assume that the speed of light has this speed, then you can transfer each wavelength into a frequency, or each frequency into a wavelength. And yeah, I think that's the only reason. I don't know why I otherwise put this slide in between. And now we come to, there's a lot of confusion in the New Age circles, because they say, no, there are 7 colors. They talk about red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and then indigo, and then violet. But indigo should not be in between blue and violet. That's a big mistake. If you really want to have 7 colors in the rainbow, then you should not talk about blue anymore. You should forget the concept of blue, and you talk about cyan and indigo. Then you indeed get 7 colors. So if you want to give each chakra a color, that's possible, of course, but then you should not call one of the chakras a blue chakra, but you name the 5th one cyan, and the 6th one, the eye chakra, the indigo chakra, and then it's correct again. And there's something funny also, because the demarcation line between cyan and indigo is exactly at the phi point, so to say, at the golden section. So when we make a golden section in between both those, then we come to the number 631, and that's exactly at the phi ratio. So I think I talked about a little bit about sacred geometry and the meaning of phi, but it's beautiful that it's also in here. So phi is the demarcation line between indigo and cyan, and they together are the colors of blue, the blue colors in the spectrum. Yeah, you can also point it here. It doesn't look like phi, but that's the way the colors are, the frequency are presented here. You can also stretch it out a little bit, but if you calculate, then you get these numbers. So that's exactly right. Now we go to the third subject, and that's about electricity and magnetism. And I think these are the most important subjects there are for us to study. And unfortunately, university and many technicians think they know everything about electricity and magnetism, but they only know how to use it, how to apply it. They have no idea what it really is. And that's what also became clear in the previous episode. So what are they? Yeah, now it becomes a little bit funny. I think I should put more humor in my show, but sometimes I'm too serious. But let's have some fun now. What is electricity? Well, the university tells us electricity is a form of energy resulting from the existence of charged particles. Okay, so far so good. Let's find out what a charged particle is. A charged particle, you see here, is a particle with an electric charge. Okay, so what is an electric charge? An electric charge is the causes of experiencing a force when placed in an electric field. Okay, so now we go from charged particles to electric charge to an electric field, and we still don't know what it is. What is an electric field? The force field from a positive electric or a negative positive electric charge to a negative electric charge. So that's the definition. It's a force field from a positive electric charge to a negative electric charge. They only give a direction, but they still don't know what it is. They don't have told us because what it is, because they direct us back to an electric charge. This is a clear textbook case of circular reasoning. There is nothing explained here at all. It's only describing. University science or scientism is only describing electricity and has not the faintest idea what it is. And the same is very true for magnetism as well, because what is magnetism? Is the capability of exerting a force on magnets. Okay, and what is a magnet? A magnet is material exhibiting properties of magnetism. This one goes directly back. So this is a really short circular reasoning. Magnetism goes to magnet and magnet goes back to magnetism. And we have also magnetic field, the field in which the force of magnetism acts. It's a description, it's not a definition. Magnetic force, the force between magnets. I hope you have as much fun as I do, because it's not helping us at all. It's just showing us from one door to another, but you're not getting anywhere. In Dutch we have a saying, it's a saying you're directed from a cupboard to the wall and back again. So that's what the university scientism is doing here. It's bringing us from the wall to the cupboard and back to the wall again. It's showing us around, but not showing us anything at all. To me, this is not science. To me, this is journalism. They can only describe. So any university professor who is still teaching this is not a scientist, it's a journalist. And they also try to divine things in the directions, otherwise they get too confused, because that's the way to get grip on the matter, by divining it. But they have not really divined it. It's just a convention. It's a description. The convention is electricity flows from plus to minus, or from what is called a high electric potential to a low one. But again, this is not any explanation at all. It's just a definition, or actually a description. It's a convention. And the same is true for a magnetic field. The convention is that we assume that it's flowing from the North Pole to the South Pole. So the North Pole is the exit pole and the South Pole is the entrance pole, out in. But again, this is pure convention. We actually don't know anything about it at all. And this is also part of the convention. We say two poles with the same, how do you call it? The two south poles, they repel, and two north poles repel as well. Only south and north pole, they attract. So similar poles repel and different poles attract. And that's what we can observe everywhere. So this is a good observation. Nothing wrong with it. The only problem is the theory, because the theory tells us that the North Pole is things are coming out. So the out things are actually going against each other, and that's why we can understand that they repel each other. Like two leaf blowers, when they're operational, when we put them close to each other, they want to get away from each other. Yeah, they don't want to get closer, because the force gets stronger and stronger the closer we bring those blowing leaf blowers together. But now we do the opposite. We have two vacuum cleaners, and both are operational, and we bring them closer and closer and closer together. Do they repel? No, they do not repel. Actually, they attract. So I hope you understand by this comparison that it's something different. It's not just repelling or attracting by what is going out or in. It's actually two at the same time, which I'll explain later on. Yeah, so our definition, or the university description of magnetism, is bring us into problems, because we cannot understand why two ingoing movements should repel each other. At least I don't understand why that works. And what we also know is when we break a magnet into two, then the middle, which was neutral, then suddenly changes into a positive, or a north pole on one side and a south pole on the other side. So how can we explain that? And opposite is true as well. When we put two magnets together, do I have them here somewhere? Can you see it's a magnet? Something is attached to it. Yeah, it's difficult to get them away from each other when I try to bring them together. See, it's very hard for me. Or maybe I put the big screen. Yeah, I have here two magnets. When I put them in the same pole to watch each other, see, it's tough. They want to go to the side, and the other is true. But when I put them differently, it's going like this. But now it's one magnet again. By the way, you can use this in your washing machine. You can buy them, I think, many shops, and you put them just in your washing machine, and you don't need any washing powder anymore. Yeah, the magnetic fields take all the dirt out of your clothing. You buy them once, and you never buy soap again. I think it's really good investment. So let's continue. How do we get the names, by the way? It's all coming from ancient Greece and Phoenician, because actually the electron is a Phoenician word, meaning shining light. And later on, the Greek used that same word for amber. Yeah, it's a kind of harsh stone. And the word magnetic comes from a part in Turkey, actually, in the area of Lydia, because there's a town called Magnesia, yeah, city of Magnesia at Sipilum. And there were stones, or there were, material found that had magnetic qualities, while the amber has electric qualities. So the qualities are here, but we still don't know what they are. We just use these names on because our ancestors once discovered that they were appropriate names, or decided that they were appropriate names. It all has to do with the ether field, so to say. And the dynamics in the ether field is I call it a spiraling torus. So it's actually a spiral and a torus in one. The outside is a torus, and the inside is a spiral going inwards, and then a spiral going outwards. And also the outside is actually a spiraling motion. So yeah, I called it also the forbidden apple in one of my earlier videos, but it's the same dynamics. And I abbreviate it now as an ASAT, elementary spiraling ether torus, because the smallest dynamics we find of a spiraling ether torus is at this level. That's called the Planck constant. So that's the smallest ether torus we can find. And all the other ones are aggregations of smaller ones. And they can rotate in a clockwise or in a counterclockwise motion. That's the beauty of it. It's very simple, actually. And it's depending on the forward motion. So if the forward motion going clockwise, then it's a yang spin. If the forward motion is going counterclockwise, it's a yin spin. So this is a yin ASAT, and this is a yang ASAT, or a right and a left. You can also call it like that. And on the basis on those two, we can call them elementary motions. We can understand that there are two types of incoming energies, so to say, in anything. From here, from the top, we see, but it can also be reversed, of course. But now in this image, from the top, it's a yang incoming motion with yang ASATs, and from the bottom there are yin ASATs coming in. And they go to the center, and there they cannot continue because there's something coming from the other side as well. So here they go to the left or to the right. So they create a horizontal plane. It's a kind of circular plane, while this at the top is a more incoming spiral. And in total, it creates a sphere. So each sphere is created by these ASATs. They're incoming ASATs from the North Pole or the South Pole, and at the equator they come out again. And by this simple model, because it's actually rather simple, we can understand everything from atoms to star systems to our solar system to planets or cells, anything. Everything has the same dynamics. This is the basic model of everything. For instance, when we make the water spiral, yeah, I don't have water in, but I have my bottle. Yeah, I will show it. But I create it myself with my bottle. Then you see that the water vortex is on top here. But here it goes to the sides, because the moment it goes through the 0 point in the middle, it goes to the sides. That's what it does. Here you see it. It goes to the 0 point in the middle, and then immediately goes to the sides. And the water does the very same. It goes to the sides, and through the sides of the bottle, it goes down. But actually, the movement after the 0 point is horizontal. That's where it wants to come out. But there, it's not possible to come out. So then it goes down again, also due to the attraction force. So when we look, for instance, at a photon, yeah, we don't really know what a photon is, but it has something like this around it. So there's an energy in the middle, and that photon has a kind of particle quality, which is the center of this. We can think of it as a kind of matter, but it doesn't have any mass, so it's a very strange matter. But it's a kind of comprised energy in the center. So that's what a photon is, and it has a big field around itself. It's a huge sphere around a small core. That's a photon. And most university science has only eye for the core, has no eye for the surrounding sphere. And that's why they don't understand many of the effects, which I will explain later on. Because what we need to understand is that the color of a photon is actually telling us something about the size of the sphere. The lower the color, so the higher the wavelength, or the lower the frequency, the bigger the surrounding sphere is. So the red sphere is much bigger than the purple sphere. Yeah, this is of course it's my way to represent it, but I try to do it as good as possible, based on the length here, the wavelength, because the wavelength is actually the length of the sphere. That is what we measure here, the length of the sphere. It's not a real transfer wave. It can become like that, but in essence, light is a longitudinal wave, and then we only need to know the length of the sphere. That's the only importance. So that's the key here. And to calculate also frequencies is actually a little bit silly, because there are no frequencies of light. There's only the length of the sphere. That's the big mistake university scientism is making with light. It has no frequency. It only has a diameter of the surrounding sphere of the photon. And that's why it is bended when it reaches, for instance, this shape, the prism shape. And why is that? Because when we bring the light in from this angle, actually this is white, because all the colors are in the same bundle, so to say. So then it becomes white when all frequencies are there. Or I'm saying frequencies, all diameters are there. Sorry, I have to correct myself here. But the purple one is bended more than the black one, because of the angle that's coming in. So that's why we see that it's going out more here too. So it's bended twice. You can say this comes with a certain speed in, and the moment a part of the surrounding sphere is in the prism, that part is slowing down, but the part that is still outside is still speeding up, and that's why it's bending. Okay? This comes with a certain speed, but this part of the sphere has a slower speed, because in the medium there is a lower speed, but outside the speed is higher, and that's why it starts to turn. It makes a twist. I hope you get what I'm saying here. And the same happens again when it goes outside, because the top is going out earlier than the bottom, so it's turned again. And here you see the same bending. And that's why we find this dynamics, bending in and out. Yeah, and the relative, no, I think this is good. Yeah, and this is not completely my own theory because it fully matches with the theory of Mr. David A. Lapointe, and he has beautiful videos on the internet, on YouTube. They are called the Primer. He calls it the Primer fields. And in 2012 and 13, he put 3 of these videos on YouTube, and I think they're very, very important, and I recommend everybody to watch them. I don't agree with everything he's telling, but yeah, of course we all have our own views, so that's good. But the basics fully matches with Holy Science, with the theory that there is a sphere of spiraling ASATs around a core. And that's explaining the bending of light through prism. University science has no real explanation for this effect, which we all know. And university science or scientism has no effect of no explanation of this effect as well. Yeah, the double split experiment or the single split, or you can look them up. Yeah, it's the basic of what is called now quantum mechanics. But quantum mechanics is not really helping us at all to understand reality. To me, that's almost the same as New Age, because the foundation of quantum mechanics is completely wrong, completely bullshit, so to say. A little bit unorthodox, perhaps, but hope you get what I'm saying here. You need to understand the dynamics of this spiraling vortex in order to understand it. So what happens when a sphere comes inside a split? The core, of course, goes straight through the middle, but the sides of the sphere are either slowed down on the left or on the right-hand side, depending on where it is. And the more it is to the left, the more it is bended to the left, and the more it is to the right, the more it is bended to the right, because of the properties of the surrounding sphere. And that's why we get this effect here. It's really easy to explain this, and not just describing, because university science, physics can only describe this, but Holy Science explains this. That's a huge difference. And the explanation is based on the surrounding sphere of spiraling ASATs. That's the key. And David Lapointe uses this shape, and actually he made a double magnet in this shape, and he shows that everything that we encounter in space, galaxies and so on, they have effects that we can create with these kind of magnets. And also in between there is a kind of still place where you can put iron balls and yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to explain all this video here. It will not be possible. But again, I advise you very strongly to go and watch the Primer fields on YouTube, because it will be very helpful to understand many things. But then you will also start to see differences with my explanation, and it's up to you to see who is right. And I would love to have a chat with this guy, but unfortunately I cannot get in contact with him. If you know him, or if you are him, then please contact me, because I think we have a lot of things to share. And as I said before, I'm not sharing everything in this free television broadcast. I think my work is too important to give it away for free. So that's why I'm not showing everything. This is another beautiful picture showing the same dynamics. And when we put this picture as a frame on all the phenomena we know, then we start to understand things much, much more clearly. So there's a huge difference between a transverse wave, which we also get in a stadium when we stand up and sit down again. Yeah, then we make the wave go round in a stadium. That's what we do. So that means that a transverse wave needs a medium. And what is the medium in space? If there is nothing, there is no medium as well. Or maybe something different. Yeah, the transverse wave has a propagation direction, while the motion is actually perpendicular to that motion, to that forward direction. And there is a huge difference between the work of Mr. Hertz, Heinrich Hertz, German guy, and the genius called Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was much more interested in longitudinal effects than in transverse waves. And there are many, many differences between them. And if you really want to understand the work of Nikola Tesla, you should forget everything you know about transverse waves, because he's not talking about that at all. He's talking about longitudinal motion. And when you combine that with what I've just explained about the spheres of surrounding spheres of ASATs, then things become really understandable. And to make it really simple, sound is a transverse wave, while light is a longitudinal ray. It's a ray of energy, radiant energy. It doesn't have wave-like qualities. It's different. And Tesla, in the beginning, of course, we all know that the way to create electricity by making a movement inside a magnetic field. And then the electric current starts to flow. And then you can make alternating current, or you create double non-alternating current. It's all very simple if you understand how it works. And that's how Nikola Tesla created his fortune, just by understanding how this works. But this is a really important paper of him. And the word that struck me in this paper, just freeze it or go to my website, holyscience.org, see the article on Nikola Tesla, and then you find the link there, you can read it for yourself. But the words that struck me here was sound waves of electrified air. So air is electrified, and that's what creates the illusion of light. Light, as we see it, is actually a wave effect of electrified air. I don't have much more time to explain this, but this is really important. It creates a wave. It creates a wave-like qualities. So light becomes a wave when it is electrified, and that happens in a magnetic field. Yeah, read the article for yourself, and then you probably understand what I'm saying here. So when I ask you what is the speed of sound in vacuum, and you are a little bit educated, then you laugh or you think that I'm crazy, because there is no speed of sound in vacuum. Why? Sound cannot travel in vacuum. When we look at the Hollywood space films, we hear all kinds of sounds from spaceships, but that's not possible because sound is not traveling through vacuum. If actually space is a vacuum, but that's also something very different. Anyway, there's not enough air to make sound propagate. And the same is true for light. So this image of light, when we go through light speed or whatever in all those science fiction films, movies, is just theory. It's science fiction. It's really science fiction, because we cannot see light in vacuum. Or let me correct this: we cannot see light if there is not a surrounding magnetic field. That's the core. We need a magnetic field in order to get as Tesla called it, the sound wave properties of light. And that's why all the pictures we see of the sun or any other phenomena with light is coming from inside our atmosphere, from inside the magnetic field of our planet, because outside the magnetic field of our home planet, we cannot detect light. That's the big secret I'm exposing here. Light can only be seen from within a magnetic field. So if you have a spaceship, then you need first a magnetic field inside in order to see light. Otherwise, it is completely dark outside the spaceship. You cannot see anything. And you might bump into the sun because you don't see it. Yeah, all the pictures taken are from within the magnetic field of our home planet. And that's also true for all the pictures of our moon, Luna. They are not from space, they're all from within our atmosphere. So is this true or not? What we see here is the far side of the moon, at least according to NASA. But we all know that NASA means never a straight answer, so they are probably lying about this. My conclusion is this is a fake model of the moon, just like a fake model was used for the moon landing, a really big one. So I don't think this is an authentic photo of the backside of the moon, or the dark side of the moon, as Pink Floyd called it. And if you can prove me wrong, then please contact me, because that would share a complete new light on my theory that you cannot make a picture with light on the outside, on the backside of the moon, because there is no atmosphere, there is no magnetic field. And even the Hubble telescope that creates all those marvelous pictures of faraway galaxies is inside our own magnetic field, inside the atmosphere of our home planet. Why would NASA not bring a telescope outside? That's the big question. The answer is, of course, you cannot see any colors outside our magnetic field. You cannot see any light at all. You can only catch radiation. Yeah, so all the satellites we have, and of course, I explained before, all the so-called missions into space, they never went higher than about 500 kilometers. And that's where everything is. A little bit higher are the satellites, but that's as high as it goes, because there's nothing higher. At least not that is able to detect, to make pictures that have visible lights, that have visible colors. So it's all within the magnetosphere of our planet, and these are the two Van Allen belts. It's all in between the first one and our home planet. And that's why NASA can create any color of the sun Helios it wants. Just go look on your internet. Just try to find the true color of the sun, the true color of the sun Helios. You will not find it, because NASA can give it any color they want, and that's what they do. Yeah, I use red as the color for the sun Helios, but that's just to represent the opposite of blue. Blue is the color of our home planet, so red and blue are a couple, our father and our mother. A father out in heaven and a mother out in earth. That's why I use red and blue. But it doesn't mean that the sun is red or green or purple or whatever. Yeah, actually it's colorless. If we have a spaceship, and that's none of the so-called channelings are telling you this. They are not telling you that the sun has no color, because they have no clue. It's all a bunch of fantasy. It is not real, authentic at all, but I'm not going to that as well. So the whole theory of the electromagnetic wave, yeah, based on the work of Mr. Maxwell, he was absolutely genius, and he was really a clever man. But this assumption that there is an electromagnetic wave, which is the foundation under his theory, is wrong. There is no such thing. Only within a magnetic field, this is created. This is an effect of radiation coming into a magnetic field, and then we get this. But when we, for instance, try to understand what is coming from the sun Helios towards our home planet, it is not this. This is not in between our home planet and the sun Helios. There are only spheres of ASATs coming in our direction. That is the truth. And you cannot see any light, and you cannot measure any of these things. Actually, you can only measure the diameters of the ASATs. That's the truth. And that is what Nikola Tesla discovered. That's actually the secret of his discovery. And he saw how we could collect that kind of energy. He called it radiant energy. Yeah, this is a very simple device, because there is a potential difference between the top of the ionosphere and our home planet. And if you just simply catch energy from the top here, and you make a wire to the bottom, then there is an electric current going here. And if you make another wire next to it, then this current is influencing this current, and then you create electricity for free. Radiant electricity is, or radiant energy is collected, and it is converted into electricity, electric current. This simple, everybody can do this, and there are many people working on this as well. This is the secret of Nikola Tesla. the biggest secret of him. And when he was young, everybody admired him because he brought alternating current and many other things as well. But when he became older and older, nobody wanted to know anything about him anymore because he was far ahead of mankind. And the people who want to make money were not interested in his gifts to mankind, because free electricity for all is possible once we understand how this works. And if you are smart, if you are technical, then yeah, do your research and create such a device for the sake of humanity. So the question is, how far is this away? For instance, these trees, yeah, maybe a mile. How far are the clouds away? Yeah, you can measure that. But the main question is, how far is this blue away from us? Have you ever wondered how far the blue is away from us? Is it around our home planet? Yes, it is. But where? What is the distance between the blue and us at the surface? Maybe you've seen the video of this remarkable press conference after the Apollo 11 flight, which of course never went to the moon. It just went up 500 kilometers and stayed there for a while, and then it came back. And everything they told was a lie, except one thing. They said we were never able to see the stars from the lunar surface. Well, they were never to the lunar surface, so that's not a little bit strange to say. But they had to say it, of course. They had to keep up the lie. But the point is, they did their homework because they knew you could not see any star from the lunar surface because there is no magnetic field. Now that's the really remarkable truth. They did not know about the Van Allen belts at that time, so they were not really trained to answer those questions. But yeah, I have to speed up here. But if you look at the expression on their faces, they're not really the three people who really walked on the moon for the first time, because they would be much more enthusiastic about their deeds than they were here. They were completely brainwashed, and they're trying not to say something that would expose their lie. And now back to the subject we started with, because the flat earth loonies also say, yeah, the distance that we can see the sun off is not the real distance. And they're right about that too. That claim is correct, but the conclusion that this earth is flat is completely silly. Because we never see the sun. Nobody has ever seen the sun. I repeat, you and I have never seen the sun. We have seen the effect created by the radiation coming from the sun, but that's different. Because this is what's happening. There is radiation coming from the sun in our direction. This is the border of the magnetic field of our home planet. And there, when it comes inside the magnetic field, the radiation gets bended. It comes towards a central point. And that point starts to shine. And that creates the illusion of the sun before the blue. Because if you look carefully, you see that the sun, Helios, is before the blue, not after. And it would be millions of miles behind the blue if it was correct. So we don't see the sun at all. We see the effect of radiant energy bended toward a focus point, and that focus point is lit like it is the sun. And I think that's the same reason why the sun and the moon have the same shape, the same size, because the orbiting the sphere around us, the magnetic sphere, has the same curvature. So the light from the moon is also reflected horizontal. It's not light actually; it's radiant energy. It's coming in the same way and creates the same, but it's less powerful. And of course, the structure of the surface of the moon, Luna, is also visible here. So we have neither seen the moon either. It's a bit of a shock now, you hear, but with our own eyes, we've never seen the sun nor the moon. We've only seen the effects they created inside the magnetic sphere around our planet. Now we go to another subject. It's the Ura Linda book, and it's written in a very strange language. And actually is the Frisian language, the language of the Frisians. And the book starts with claiming that it was written originally in the year 803. And then it was written over and over again until the year 56, sorry. And finally, it was made public in the year 1867 by this guy, Cornelis over de Linden. He was a Dutch guy. He lived in Den Helder in the north west of the Netherlands. But it turned out that this book is a forgery. And it was not really an authentic book, but the content of the book is really, really important. This is the kind of alphabet was used. It was a created alphabet to make it authentic, because the claim is that it was much, much older. Yeah, it was created. For instance, we see this word here, and, which is an English word, and also three, which is nearly three, because it means three. This means three. So what they try to claim in this book is that the language originated from the Frisian language. If it's true or not, I'm not able to say right now, but maybe that claim is correct. But still, the book was a forgery. And it claims that it was written 3,449 years after Atlantis, in this year. But in my previous episode, I showed that Atlantis was much, much, much earlier. So that's not correct, because they claim the fall of Atlantis was in the year 2193 before our current era, while my research shows 9,600 before our current era. So that's a huge difference. That's also what Plato says, by the way. So this is not correct. And all these other dates, you can put it on hold, and then you can read it for yourself. They are all trying to make it impressive, as if it is actually history, but it's not. It's all fake. But it's not completely fake. And it's based on true stories, and that makes it interesting. And they also claim in the book, for instance, that Valhalla was actually this island in the Netherlands, in Zeeland, of Walcheren. And there is a kind of similarity between Valhalla and Walcheren. So that's famous. Yeah, and it's Valhall in the Nordic mythology, the Hall of the Slain. When you're dead, you go to Valhalla. Well, I don't think all the dead people go here. But it's important to see where it is located, because it's on a very important ley line, which also is Stonehenge upon, and also this ancient building. So this ley line is really important, and it's remarkable that Walcheren is actually there. Yeah, and here you see an ancient map. It was an island, not connected to the mainland. Other ancient maps. Yeah, I think I'll go here. This was used to be all water here. It's now mainly land, but it used to be all water. Yeah, Holland, as we know, it was mostly lakes and small pieces of land. Yeah, it's all below sea level. Most is below sea level. This is a very ancient map. Here you see small islands. It's the same region here. Yeah, there's much more to say about this, but I'm running out of time, so I have to speed up a little bit. And what they claim is that the inhabitants of the island of the Britons came from what is now called Denmark and northern of Germany, and this whole part of the Netherlands. The Frisians lived here, and they all inhabited the southwest part of, southeast part of the UK, what is now called the UK. And there is some truth in that claim, I think. So it's not completely fiction. It's fiction, but it's based on facts. Yeah, and actually, this is all Anglo-Sax. The Saxons and Angles, they came together here, and this is now an Anglo-Saxon culture, together with the original inhabitants. And the author, because people are still guessing about the author, but if you do your research, you'll find it easily. The real author of the original story, I have to say stories, was most likely this guy, Joost Hidders Halbertsma, a Frisian guy. And he also wrote a little bit later with two of his brothers this book about rhymes and stories. So he was really into ancient knowledge, and he studied many things. So he had the knowledge to write it, and that's why he probably did it, because he saw that many things were going wrong in the society he lived in, and he wanted to bring back the old values again. That's why it was probably the reason why he wrote it. But somehow his manuscript got in the hands of this guy, Cornelis over the Linden, and together with this guy, Stademan, they created a new kind of alphabet to make it look authentic, make it look older than the rune writing. But the idea came, of course, from the runes, the rune alphabet. And unfortunately for them, it was written on paper that was much too young to be original. Yeah, simple analysis of the paper proved that it was a forgery. Could not have been that old as they claimed. They were hoping to make a lot of money out of this, but didn't happen. The guy who actually published it later on committed suicide when they found out that it was a forgery, because he was defending it with all his power that it was authentic. Well, actually, I think the story could have been really well authentic or based on authentic stories, just like the stories of Tolkien, I think are based on true history. But the version that was given free was not the authentic one. And what is inside the story, and that gave away the true author, this guy, because he was studying the ancient calendar system of the Frisians. And that calendar system was a pure solar and lunar calendar. We now only have a solar calendar, but the lunar calendar is completely lacking in our calendar system. We don't know when is full moon and new moon. We have to look that up. And every month is on a different day. So there is no logic in that. But the ancients all had a month based on a full moon cycle, from new moon to the next moon. That was the ancient calendar in Frisian and also in ancient Anglo-Saxon, in ancient UK or ancient Britain Island. And we know that because this monk named Bede, he wrote a very well-known book about the story in Anglorum or England of the Christian people. So this is a classic book, and he lived here, yeah, in the north. I think it's Scotland, or I'm not sure, but it's high up north in this town, and this is still standing there, this monastery. And he was translating many books from Latin and Greek into language that people understood. And he also revealed the ancient calendar system that was in use at that time for long. And when we look at this is monad, and monad is just the same as the German word still. Monad means moon, month. Yeah, a period of one full moon. That's where the month is actually month. But now we have a month or month that is longer, because the original month or month was 29.5 days in average. So sometimes 30 and sometimes 29. And then you get a perfect moon calendar in which halfway is always the full moon. Well, I don't have time to explain all these names. I made an article. You find that on holyscience.org. It's the most recent one at the top. And there I explain this calendar in much more detail. But on the basis of these names, you find that it's crystal clear that this calendar precedes the Roman Catholic calendar, both the Julian calendar and the Gregorian calendar. So the ancient people who lived in this part of the world, in northwest part of Europe, including United Kingdom, what is called now United Kingdom, they had already a calendar system before the Roman Empire or the Catholic the Roman Catholic group tried to force their own calendar on top of us. Yeah, and the names are very, very meaningful. They're all related to harvest and to what's happening in the climate. And even Mother's Night is the original name of Christmas Eve. We now call it Christmas Eve, but this is a trick from the Roman clergy to fool us. We already had a name for that special night, which is the longest night of the year, after which the days become longer. And it was named after our primeval mother. Isn't that remarkable? So next time you celebrate Christmas, please call it Mother's Night. or primeval Mother's Night. And the years that were put in the book as so-called writers or rewriters, they had meaning, because in the year 803, the Frisians were allowed to have freedom, thanks to this guy, Charlemagne in French, or Charles the Great in Dutch or other languages, Charles the First. So he was emperor of this whole, emperor of the Gaul, and he said to the top, you can have your own country and your own rules. So the Frisians were very happy to be no longer part of an empire, but it ended when this guy, Floris V, became Count of Holland and Zeeland, and he also named himself Count of West-Friesland, though he actually never really conquered it, but he was able to force his laws upon them as well. So then the freedom of the Frisians ended, and that's why those names, those dates are in that book. It's just an historic reference. It's a clue. Yeah, here you see the picture of this so-called Charles the Great, and it's also his head on the coin. And the story tells us, which is a little bit funny to me, they say that the Frisians were actually making a lot of trips around here all the way to Phoenician, and the Phoenicians also came here. And that's of course, there must have been trips as well, but that it was part of empire of the Phoenicians, to me that's nonsense. But there is some remarkable twist to this as well, because this guy Simon Stevin, which was a really clever guy, he was a mathematician, a physicist, and also a really successful engineer. He developed many Dutch words for expressions that were only known before only in Latin or in Greek. And he, for instance, he created wiskunde in Dutch, which means mathematics, but it's also the art of that which is sure, gewisse, zekere. And I also find it nice to play with words. I also say wiskunde means what is sure art. What is sure. Of course, it's not completely correct. It's a reference to gewisse. That means what is sure. And that is what mathematics is doing. It's the art of that which is sure. But he said the Dutch language is much older than people know. And he even claimed that the people in the Garden of Eden were talking Dutch. I think that's a remarkable claim, but I'm still investing it. And of course, the word Dutch comes from Duits, and Duits is means German. So there's a lot of confusion, and they all come from the same language actually. Dutch and Duits is the same, or German. And even the Dutch people were Germans. That means they were living in Germania. And that was all part of the northeast part of Europe. So the whole idea that Germany was Germania was Germany was not correct. It's much bigger. Yeah, and he spoke Flemish, which is also a variant of Dutch, Duits. And there is a remarkable similarity between words, because the god in that book, the upper god, is called Vralda. In Frisian, it's Vrald. In Dutch, it's Wereld. In German, it's Welt. In English, it's world. So these words are really remarkably the same. And Irta, which is the female god, in West Frisian is Irde. In Dutch, is Aarde. In German, it's Erde. And in English, it's Earth. And they all have the same foundation as well. And it goes further, because he also says the Juten actually comes from the Dutch word jatten, stealing. And they were the beachcombers. And angelen were people who were fishing with a hook, with a fish hook. So, and that's also the Dutch word hengel. Hengel means to fish with a hook. And he says Greece comes from Krekaland, and that's the land of the Kreken, or the Creeks. So he claims they were all originally Dutch words. And even Hellenism, nobody can explain where the word Hellenism comes from. I've not seen any convincing explanation. But he says it's simply from Hellingers, people who live on the hillside. Helling is the Dutch word for hillside. So these were the hillside people. Again, if it's true or not, I'm not sure, but there seems to be a lot of truth in it. I still have to investigate it. And he even goes further. That is in the original book, the Ora Linda book. It says that all the stories of the ancient Greeks were actually taking place in Walcheren. I now know that is not true, but there is a remarkable relation between the names. For instance, Calypso comes from the name of the borough maid Calyp in the Ora Linda book. Yeah, we know this story from Homerus. And he says, Odyssey is actually Dutch for "oh, that sea." So, yeah, if you just read the book, there are also English versions available, and then you can search it for yourself. So, what did Homer do? Probably, according to this book, he used ancient stories from the Netherlands and created a new version in Greek. True, false? I don't know. Official story is that the Greek alphabet originated from the Phoenician alphabet, and that the Phoenician alphabet came to Greece through a guy named Cadmus the Phoenician. But in the Ora Linda book, he's called Kathemar, and that's actually a word for people who live on the coast. Kadeheimar, of somebody who has the heim, the home, on the kade, on the coast. Dwellers on the coast is the literal meaning. True or false, I don't know, but it's remarkable that Cadmus and Kathemar, which you can explain in Dutch, has a lot of meaning. And also Atlantis, the book says Atlantis comes from Atlant, and that comes from old land. Alt, yeah, the German word alt is still old, Altland. And my name, Oldenkamp, that word is the same, is also meaning old. So it's an old camp in my case. And this was an old land, Atlantis. True, false? I don't know. Anyway, they created their own writing system, and as far as I know, this is fake. They invented it themselves. But I like the systematic, because it's a circle with 6 spokes, yeah, or with 3 lines in between. And it's called a Yule. And the same word Yule is also present in the ancient calendar system from as I explained before. Yeah, there are 2 months named after the Yule. The first Yule and the second Yule. Look it up for yourself. We now can write the digital ciphers with this shape, the H shape. And all the 1 to 0 we can put in here. And that's what the clock does. But you see at the background it's the same shape. And in the same way, all the letters of our alphabet can be written with that circle with the 6 spokes. Yeah, some are smaller and bigger, but if you make them equal in size, you can easily see the alphabet here. At least I can easily see them. And also the ciphers, sometimes you can write them a little bit different, but this is, I think, really clear, 1 up to 9. And the 0 is, of course, the same as the O. So we can use this system, and that's what they did in the book. Yeah, here you can see in the back. This is the front, and now you see at the back side the original shapes. So I think this is a really genius system they invented, and it's really clever. And it looks a bit like the alphabet from the runes. Nobody knows how old this alphabet is, and maybe it's equally old as the Phoenician alphabet. And maybe the Phoenicians were inspired by the rune alphabet. Nobody knows this for sure. Yeah, the official story says the Phoenician alphabet came from Egypt, which makes sense because it's close to Egypt, but maybe it's also influenced by the rune alphabet. And where the rune alphabet comes from, nobody knows. This comb has been found and is dated on the year 160 of our current era, and it has a name on it, Harya. So probably Harya was the owner of this comb. But there are also markings found in caves which are at least 1300 BCE old. So it's remarkable. This writing system disappeared in the 9th century because we started to speak differently. And then this system had no longer use. And if you look at these lines, then you can use this symbol as background, and all the 24 symbols of the rune alphabet can be written with these shapes. And these are 6 lines. To me, this is remarkable. I've just discovered this recently. This is my work. It's my discovery. But I think there is something to this story. And there's also work I still have to be doing. I'm just presenting preliminary results here. And now the final subject of this broadcast, it's about one of the most genius philosophers ever, I think. His name was Friedrich Nietzsche, and he wrote an important book called Also sprach Zarathustra in German, or English also spoke Zarathustra. And the subtitle is A Book for All and None. So it's true, it's a book for everybody, but also for none, because hardly anyone understands it. You need to be fully conscious in order to appreciate his writing. Otherwise you think it's a bunch of crap. Well, it's not. But maybe your consciousness is not developed enough to get what he's trying to tell you. He was indeed a clever man. And he explained in one of the chapters called The Three Metamorphoses, how we can develop our spirit. In a previous episode of Pateo TV, I explained what the spirit really is. Most people think they have one. Well, they don't. You need to develop it, otherwise you don't have it. You have maybe one in the foundation for one might be there, but you still have to do work. And the work you need to do is really clearly described by Friedrich Nietzsche. The first phase is being like a camel. That means you need to use your mind like a camel. You have to put a lot of weight on top of it. That means you have to make your brain become more and more advanced. You can call it intellectual fitness. You need to train your brain to the maximum, like it is a kind of camel that can carry a lot of weight. So don't be afraid that it is too much weight, too much thinking for your mind, because you will train your brain in that way. So first treat your mind as a beast of burden and let it go into the wilderness. Let it go to where no man has gone before. That's what I'm doing with my holy science. I'm taking paths like the things I explained before with the ASATs. No man has gone before there. And that's what you need to do with your mind. That's the first step. And then when you have trained your brain to the maximum, and it is really a strong camel, it can carry a lot of weight, then it becomes a beast of prey. That means you want to become free. You want to create your own empire. You don't want anybody to rule over your mind. No more mind control in not any way. So your mind becomes like a lion. It becomes the king in your own domain, in your own kingdom. It becomes master in its own wilderness. That's the second phase, the king phase. And then when you are king in your own kingdom, when you are lion, your mind has become a lion, then you go into the third phase, and then your mind becomes like a child, which has no prejudice, which is looking at everything for the first time. Then your mind can enter the third phase, and that's what he called the Übermensch. And that idea was completely hijacked by the Nazis, because they wanted to create Übermensch, but they thought it was something like genetics or race or whatever, which is completely ridiculous. Every man, every woman, everyone can become an Übermensch, can become a Superman when you reach the third stage. And that's why he said this book is for all and none, because none or hardly anybody reaches that third phase. Maybe many want to start and become a camel, but at a certain moment the weight becomes too heavy for them and they stop. They stop developing their mind. So the only way to develop your mind in order to become a spirit, a real spirit, is this three-step approach. Yeah, if you want to learn more about this, just read this book of Friedrich Nietzsche, also spoke Zarathustra. It's available in many languages for free on the internet. So I found many versions already, and just start to read it. And if you have seen all 13 episodes of Pateo TV, it should not be difficult to understand what Nietzsche is trying to explain there. So this was the last live presentation of Pateo Television. After this, my plan is to start doing interviews. So I'm not going to give away more information about Holy Science for free. I'm thinking of maybe another formula, maybe paid television or something. If you have any idea how to make that work, then you can also contact me. But this is my last live presentation, or you can also call it a webinar, in which I give my information on my science for free away. But if you want to learn more about this, then yeah, you cannot wait for the next episode. Then there's only one way, and that is to buy this ebook. It has now 520 pages, and you can buy, if you just want to try it out, you buy the first 2 chapters for €5, and if you don't like it, you can stop. But if you think it's really worthwhile of your time, then you can buy them all for €30 or $41 USA. You can pay through bank transfer or PayPal. Anything is good for me. And yeah, if you really want to become a student of Holy Science, then this is the only way. This is the only way to do what I told you before. Oh, sorry, going the wrong direction. Because when you start reading this book, then your mind becomes like a camel, because it's not easy reading this. This is tough reading. It's very compromised, and it's very compact. Sorry, that's the right word. There's a lot of information on one page, and you cannot read it before you go to sleep. And it's a study. It requires study. It's a textbook. So that's how you can also read it, to study it, little by little, and you go back, and then you go forward, and so on. So again, if you have appreciated these 13 episodes of Pateo Television, then please become a student, just like I am. I'm also a student of Holy Science, and read my book, what I've discovered so far. And any updates of this book, you get them for free, yeah, because I'm constantly writing new parts, and then any updates will be at the same. You get in the same way. So thank you very much for watching this episode of Pateo Television, the 13th and last one of the presentation series, of the webinar series. And again, if you've liked it, please share the link to this video to other people. Yeah, it's available on YouTube for free, so share that link to many people as possible. And that's the way to make it grow. And if you appreciate that you can watch presentations like this, then also support CCN in any way you can. Because CCN is, I think, a unique platform for providing this kind of information to a broader audience. And I think it's really unique, and it needs to be supported. That's my opinion. And of course, I also think that I need some support. So if you want to support me, because I don't get any income from the government, I don't have a job, I don't pay taxes, I'm completely off the grid. So I live from selling my work. And if you appreciate my work, and if you want to support my making a living, then please buy my books. You can also donate if you want, but I prefer that you buy books, because then to me it's in balance. Then I get something and you get something as well. Okay, this is how I conclude this 13th and last presentation of Pateo Television. Namaste.
If you really had to make a difference on a large scale with minimal resources, how would you go about it? Have you ever dared to dream of doing that which seems impossible? On a planet steeped with corruption and destruction, the question beckons, how do we change it? Media has a far-reaching impact on people and has been used to manipulate humanity into our current destructive patterns. In order to affect people into moving into constructive patterns of behavior, we need to construct a new paradigm of media. Conscious Consumer Network has been created with the explicit intention of giving the amazing truth-seeking, solutions-orientated, alternative media a place to fully realize their true potential with a cutting-edge, high-tech professional media platform. In turn, some of the greatest freedom-seeking hearts and souls of our time have realized the true potential of what has been created and have come together to provide their insight and inspiration on CCN. Conscious Consumer Network has become a unique, interactive information and educational network which provides a free-to-view, live-stream, ultra-high-definition channel to the world and features 25 live shows a week and growing with the addition of multiple language broadcasts. CCN has features comparable with mainstream media, such as being able to pause and rewind broadcasts whilst being live streamed. Catch up on missed or previous broadcasts, now available from the CCN High Definition downloads. You can now purchase a high definition download of your favorite CCN show from ethymarket.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a monthly pledger. This can be done with a monthly pledge of €10, which will allow you unlimited access to CCN's high definition downloads, which hosts a back catalogue of over 250 shows which have been aired since the launch of CCN on the 1st of January 2015. In order to keep CCN on the air, public funding is needed. Please donate to CCN's Network Support Fund or become a monthly pledger. Help keep alternative media in the hands of the people. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.